hockey and regular season hockey, right? You know, it's a little bit harder on the body once you get to the playoffs. So you have that load on the body. And then I didn't even think about, but it's a great point that you brought up about the stress of just getting to a Stanley Cup final. I personally obviously don't know what it's like to play in a Stanley Cup final. I can imagine night in, night out, it's pretty stressful. And so that's adding to that stress load, and
yeah.
just inhibiting that recovery. Are you promoting anything in terms of recovery, like supporting them in terms of like giving them recovery modalities, or is it just more about, like you said, just sleep well, sleep as good as you can, get good nutrition in, and those sorts of things, take your mind off the game a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to take your mind off the game at that
Yeah.
point. But yeah, I mean, you focus on the big things, and it's a challenge. And it's not just playoffs, but to get sleep after a game for a lot of these guys, they're so amped up, and
Yeah.
their sympathetic nervous system's going firing on all cylinders, and it's tough to fall asleep. So like it's it's that's a challenge during the season
Mm-hmm.
with the travel and all that stuff, is to help them sleep. Nutrition is huge. But then, yeah, I mean, there's modalities, massage, you have
Yeah.
Norman Techs, cold tubs, hot
Right.
tubs, and all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of guys, it's a lot of the stress that you don't see. It is the psychological stress. And, people, outsiders and fans are like, well, you make millions of dollars, like, just suck it up and, like, be a player and, like, do your
Yeah.
job. And it's not that easy. They're human beings
Yeah.
just like we are. And a lot of them feel a lot of weight on their shoulders and to perform because of the situation they're in. And it's tough. Like, I remember the situation. This was my biggest concern at the time was in the 2012 playoffs with the Kings. Honestly, like, we were going into the Stanley Cup final, and we had only lost 2 games
Yeah.
going into the final. And then we played New Jersey Devils in the final, and we went up 3-0 in that series right off the hop. Like, this is a cakewalk. We're going to win the cup,
Yeah.
like, only lose two games. And then we lost the next 2 games. And game 5, yeah, we started on the road. Game 5 was back in New Jersey. We played a great game. We should have won. But this was vintage Martin Brodeur. He was the goalie, like,
Yeah.
stood on his head and was unbelievable. So we're going back to LA for game 6. And there was just this, like, crazy weight on everyone's shoulders. Like, you have to win that game.
Yeah.
You cannot lose this game, because you cannot go back to New Jersey, take another flight, and go back to New Jersey and, like, a do or die game after being up 3-0 in the series. And, like, that psychological stress on those guys and us as staff, like, at that point, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
just, we just have this stress load as well.
Yeah.
But one thing that made this team so good was the leadership within the dressing room. And it wasn't just the captains. Dustin Brown was a captain, Andrei Kopitar was assistant captain, Matt Green was another assistant captain, 3 veteran guys that,
Mhm.
are warriors. It was the supporting cast. We had 7 or 8 other guys in that team. If you put them on any other NHL team, they would have been a captain.
Yeah.
And I think it was the only player, and I could be wrong on this, but the only player on the team that had already won a Stanley Cup was Justin Williams. And he actually held, before that game, closed door meeting, players only. Obviously, I wasn't in the meeting, but I know the gist of, what he said to the group was, block out all distractions. We have an opportunity here to do something special. And believe it or not, this isn't going to be the same team next year. Guys contracts expired, get traded, whatever. We need to do this now. And then they, the guys went out and we won the game 6-1.
Yeah.
But you needed that kind of leadership from guys that have been through it and been there and done that to get to that point. But that really just highlighted for me, like, at that point, it wasn't about physical preparation. Like New Jersey had been through more than we had been through at that point.
Yeah.
And all teams are kind of like equal in terms of what they've gone through. It was more of a mental game than anything for our guys.
Yeah. No,